All right. Anxiety is really just excitement in disguise. That's all anxiety is. And one of the key realizations I've made is that when you spend all of your energy trying to avoid chronic anxiety, sorry, what I've, let me re-say this. What I've realized about anxiety is if you spend all of your energy trying to avoid it, what you end up with is chronic anxiety. To cure anxiety, you don't avoid it. You cure chronic anxiety by leaning into acute anxiety. What is that acute anxiety? That's the feeling that you fear, right? You fear the acute anxiety, and so you try to run away from it through escapism, through social media, through pornography, through all these kinds of whatever. And the more you run away from it, the more the background static, the louder it gets of the chronic anxiety that's present in your life. But you have to recognize that that acute anxiety that you feel whenever you're faced with having to do something that has the potential to chart your life down a path that you know is going to be uncomfortable but will yield you the results you want. The moment you do that, the negative valence of that acute, of how you perceive that as acute anxiety, it turns into positive valence and it turns into excitement. The moment you break through that little barrier, the moment you put on those running shoes and you step outside the door, you feel your heart pumping. The moment you take out your phone, you face it against you, you hit the record button and you start talking to it. You feel that visceral anxiety, but that is the moment of breakthrough. Suddenly, that visceral anxiety transmorphs itself into a kind of excitement because you feel like a bumbling fool. You don't know what the hell you're doing. But you did it. You did the action that you're so afraid of. And when you start doing the actions that you're afraid of, that's when you start shape-shifting your identity. When your identity shifts, the way you view yourself in relationship to the action of, say, turning on the camera and filming yourself, it completely changes. Now it's no longer this huge dragon that you have to slay, but it's just another part of your daily routine, right? The moment of breakthrough, the part that gives you the most visceral anxiety is that thing that you just have to get past as soon as possible. I'll give you another example. I was snowboarding 2 years back and I flew off of a big jump. I panicked and I fractured my spine. I had to get pulled off the mountain. And so after that injury, my back would be hurting for a year and a half afterwards. But as soon as the next season started, I was determined, okay, I'm going to get back on the slope as soon as possible. And I'm going to hit a jump. And so I did that. But what I could have done instead is that I could have been like, oh fuck, I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to hit a jump again. You know, I'm not going to mess with that. And the moment you do that, you close yourself off. The moment you close yourself off to that visceral anxiety, you become smaller. Self-doubt sets in. And then the background static of anxiety starts to creep in. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. The difference between chronic anxiety and acute anxiety, which is really just excitement, is the voluntary exposure to something that you've never done, that you haven't previously been comfortable with. And if you're willing to voluntarily expose yourself to that feeling, all it is a feeling, really. And then when you go do it, you're like, what the fuck was I so afraid of? You know? The more you're willing to expose yourself to that, the more limitless, the easier it is to make progress in life and build momentum And that just keeps going and going and going because you see that your capacity is greater than what you once thought it was. And then you constantly see yourself at a greater capacity than what you previously were. And a period of time later, you look back and you're like, holy shit, I'm pumping out 10 videos a week. And I used to be scared to just film one video. And then it became one video per week. And I was afraid of that. And then I started filming 6 videos per week. This is a true story, by the way. I'm like filming 6 videos a week now, just so I can schedule things, so I don't have to spend all my time thinking about it, right? You just get it done. You just get it done. So I hope this has inspired you to take action. If you're struggling with a porn addiction and you lack the clarity of what direction to take your life, I've created a guide for that. It's for free. You can go download that in the description. I hope you find that useful. Peace.